everyone. I am Cecily Erzuah. So I am from Ghana, situated in the western part of the African continent. I am a student at the University of Prince Edward Island, and I'm taking diversity and social justice studies. Yeah, sure. So I actually started my first semester back at home, and coming here, the main focus was to complete the upcoming semester successfully. But of course, at the completion, I realized that it was very necessary to find a job. So I began with that, but that was a little bit rough as I realized that most of the employers I spoke to were looking for immigrants with Canadian experience in the job market. So that was pretty rough as I didn't have any Canadian experience. But eventually I got a job, but I realized that having Canadian experience in the first place is very important. Like it puts you in a lucky place to get a job in the Canadian job market. Technically, I would say that it was only the Canadian experience which I was lacking, which that made me not get a job as fast as I wanted to. That was pretty much the only challenge at the first place. Yeah, so the first job I landed, of course, without any Canadian job experience. But one thing I did was to actually look out for resources which could help me prove to the employer that even though I did not have the Canadian experience, I could still do the job well. And of course, there were friends around, so I asked them questions on how they got their first job, even though they did not have any Canadian experience. On getting the job at the first place, no. But as I started working there, I realized that I began experiencing some racist attitude, not from the employer though, but from some of the white customers I encountered. So I would literally realize that as a customer service representative, as I would approach some white customers to help them out with whatever they needed in the store, it's funny, but I would just see how they would move away quickly as I tried to approach them. And of course, other reasons could have account for that, but I realized that that happened oftentimes, and the only reason or the only conclusion I could draw from that was that maybe I looked different. Something was wrong with me, and that was just because of my skin color. I did have this colleague, which I wouldn't conclude that she was racist because I could see her hanging out with other black people, but I couldn't tell why she was, I would say, mean to me. More like she was waiting for me to make mistakes at work, and so that she could use that to just say I wasn't doing my job well or something like that. So I wouldn't say she was being racist as I saw her hanging out with other black folks, but it's just some of the experiences most black immigrants experience, especially with white colleagues. I think I'll start from when I was back in my home country. I never felt different. I never felt that I was different from any person I came across. But when I started experiencing those attitudes from some of the white customers, that put me in a place to think, to actually think that could I be so much different from them based on my skin color? Because I began to feel that for the first time my skin color is setting me apart, like it's highlighting my difference, it's highlighting my ethnicity and my ancestry and all that. So I mean, that was pretty overwhelming at first, because you're always happy when you have this sense of belonging in every place that you go. Definitely did, because on the first end, my mental health was affected as a young immigrant, and I was actually very young at that time, and having to experience that myriad of emotions, it was overwhelming. And as I was mentally affected, I realized that professionally I couldn't really deliver well as a customer service representative. It was like on some days customers will make me feel like I belong there. On some other days it was like I really wish I didn't go to work that day. So it was pretty overwhelming. I didn't have any resources. In fact, as at that time, the main manager had gone on a medical leave, and with the other colleague I was talking about, it was more so like she was an accomplice to the newly promoted assistant manager. And of course, both of them looking for means to, like tell me that I'm not doing my job well, literally suggest that I couldn't reach out to any person in the job like in at the workplace, but I could confide in some of my friends who had literally experienced what I was experiencing, who were also Black immigrants. So I spoke to them, and they of course comforted me, and then suggested that if I'm really getting affected, then I should look for a new job. Yeah, so there wasn't really any support or resources to. I would say that literally I had no one to talk to outside the workplace to, get things going right. It was just my friends that I could confide in at that moment. So in general, I believe it would be very great if policy makers would implement measures to get new immigrants informed and acquainted with whatever skills required to land a job in the Canadian job market. I think that would really, really be a great support to most immigrants that come to the island. Of course, in the workplace too, I think people or workers who are made to assume some positions should actually be trained for it. In my perspective, the lady who had just become an assistant manager was not really trained to actually be of a good support to me as the employee, even during the times that I make mistakes. It was like she was looking for mistakes I would make to get back at me in that manner. And generally, for international students too, I believe that it would be irregardless of whether they have Canadian experience or not, it would be very important for them to acquire some knowledge and skills on their own, in the sense that they would be able to prove to employers that they can still perform their roles well, even if they don't have the Canadian experience. Like, get resources on YouTube. There are so many resources out there where you can learn about your roles and deliver properly, even though you don't have the experience yet. The first advice is to never give up, because in my job I actually spent quite a lot of time trying to get a job, and in the beginning of that job search, I think that I became a little bit discouraged in the like when I wasn't really getting any responses from employers. But of course, I had no other option than to keep on looking for a job. So the same advice I would pass on to other international students, that no matter how long they wait to get a job, they should actually not give up. I would also advise them to get themselves informed about the Canadian job market. It's another thing to not have experience. It's another thing to be completely ignorant of what you're looking for and what you're able to deliver. So on that note, they should equip themselves with whatever knowledge and skills they need in order to properly serve the roles they are given in whatever company they land a job in.